our second part of our notes, which is now factoring perfect square trinomials. And there's two different ways I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to show you kind of the way that the book has it to do it, but then I'm also going to show you kind of what we kind of lean towards in our own classes here. So a perfect square trinomial is obviously a trinomial, a three-term polynomial, where the first and third terms have to be perfect squares, and the last term has to be positive in order for that to be the case. And how you factor a trinomial in this case that looks like this is what you're going to do is you're just going to take the square root of each of these terms. Obviously, because the middle term is positive, we know this term has to be positive, okay? So we're just going to take the square root of a squared, which is a, the square root of b squared, which is b, and a plus b squared, as most of you know, is really just expanding. If I expanded this, it's really a plus b times a plus b. Okay, it's really what a plus b squared truly is, okay? Which a lot of you know it as a plus b squared is a plus b times a plus b. This one, same rule applies. If you'll notice, the first and third terms are perfect squares. So, and you'll notice the middle term this time though is negative, so therefore they have to be same signs. With perfect square trinomials, our rule of thumb is that when you factor them, they have to be same signs. When we did the difference of two squares, they were opposite signs. So therefore, this time that rule changed and they have to be same signs. You take the square root of the first term, take the square root of the last term, and obviously as the middle term is negative, they're both going to be negative. So if we rewrite this and expand this into two binomials, which I'm going to do here now, a minus b squared is really just a minus b times itself, a minus b. So notice, same signs, same signs. So whenever you're factoring perfect square trinomials, the key again is the first and the third terms, and the sign is always going to be whatever the middle term is. So if the middle term is positive, they're both positive. If the middle term is negative, they're both negative, because you have to have same signs whenever you factor a perfect square trinomial. Okay, so now let's use this, and I'll kind of talk you through it with this first example and see if this makes sense. Let's say this is example 1 in this section. Okay, now that we're doing the second part of our notes today on perfect square trinomials, factoring perfect square trinomials. I want to factor h squared plus 4h plus 4. Okay, so I want to factor this and see if there's something special about it. Well, if we want to know whether it's a perfect square trinomial, we look at the first and third terms. The first term is a perfect square, h squared is a perfect square, and the last term, 4, is also a perfect square, and the last term is positive. That means then we can factor this using this method. So we're going to factor this into two binomials, and all we need to do is look at the first and the third terms. We know they have to be same signs. They have to both be positive or both be negative. The middle term tells me they both have to be negative. The key is the middle term. If it's positive, they're both positive. If it's negative, they're both negative. So where both of our terms will be positive. And now we just take the square root of h squared, which is h. So that goes here and here. And the square root of 4 is 2. And that's how we get our answer of h plus 2 times h plus 2, or h plus 2 squared, which is how we get h plus 2 times h plus 2. Now, we can also check this using our table method, which we've done all along, is checking our answers. H and 2, h and 2. H times h is h squared. Remember, add the exponents. 2 times h is 2h. 2 times h is 2h as well. And 2 times 2 is 4. Like terms, highest degree is h squared. 2h plus 2h is 4h. Remember, when we add like terms, all we do is add the coefficients, not the variable part, plus 4. And if you notice, by checking it, we did get what we started with, which is h squared plus 4h plus 4. This is a perfect square trinomial that can be factored into this fashion, or h plus 2 squared is the same thing as h plus 2 times h plus 2. Okay? All right, let's try another one of these perfect square trinomials.